Several weeks now, and this is the next to the last chapter, and I'm just waiting to see how many tune in. If you remember, Blotch is a little boy, and in the first chapter we meet him with his family, and Blotch is very worried about all these little spots that he has on his skin. And he finds out that you get a spot every time you do or say something that's wrong or that could have been better. And so he decides that he's going on a journey to find out what happened or how to get rid of these spots. So do you remember the first place that he finds? He finds the hiders. Do you remember the hiders? They were people who appeared to not have any spots. And he didn't see any spots. Of course, he finds out they did have spots. They were just covering them up with makeup. And then the next place that he goes is well, here's what happens to the makeup person. Remember, the makeup all washes off. Then he goes to the pretenders. Remember the pretenders? We did that last week. I'm trying to get this centered so you can see it. And the pretenders are people who pretend there are no spots. Remember? The man tells the little boy, tells Blotch, there are no spots. And this week, we are going to find a new town. And this new town is called the Pointers. And what do you think the Pointers might do? Well, we'll begin our reading. Blotch woke early in the morning before his friends or anyone else in Pretend Town was awake. He was eager to continue his journey and find an answer to the problem of the stains. As he rolled up his sleeping bag and packed his backpack, he thought about the people that he had met so far and shook his head. I wonder if anyone, anywhere, knows how we will ever get rid of these stains. Surely the king can help me. As he walked down the road that early morning, Blotch thought about his mother, father, and brothers. He imagined how wonderful it would be if he found the answer to the stains. He daydreamed of what a happy day his family could have if each one of them were finally clean. But Blotch had found no answers on his journey. And the people he had met so far only made him worry he may never find any answers. But this was no time to give up, because just ahead was another village. Maybe somebody there could point him in the right direction. Long before Blotch made it to the village, he could tell this was no ordinary place. From a distance, he could see that the village was divided by a very wide street, running all the way through the middle of town. Even though the street was wide and open, there was no one on the street, but there were lots of busy people on either side of the street. Reaching the edge of town, Blotch was walking right down the center of the wide open street when he heard a voice from the left side of the road. "What are you doing there? Quick, quick, get over here!" Blotch looked to his left and saw that the voice came from a young man who had more stains than even the people of Pretend Town. But Blotch walked over to the side of the street, just as he was instructed. I'm sorry, Blotch said to the young man. Is it wrong to walk down the street in this town? Well, there's nothing wrong with walking on the street, but I wouldn't do it, the young man said. It's just not safe. Not safe, repeated Blotch. That was all he needed to hear. Well, I won't be here long then. I'm just on a journey to see if anyone knows how to get rid of our stains. The young man narrowed his eyes and looked right at Blotch. Getting rid of our stains, eh? I don't know about that, but I do know where they come from. He snarled his lip and pointed to the other side of the street. From those people over there. Just then, a new stain appeared on his pointing hand. See, I told you, he said, nodding to the new stain. Welcome to Point City. One person giving stains to another person didn't sound right to Blotch. But he decided to follow this new friend back to his neighborhood just in case. The young man started to explain. For a long time, we didn't know where the stains came from until one day we realized the people on the other side of the road were giving them to us. Can you believe that? That actually is pretty hard to believe, said Blotch. I thought our stains came from the things we did wrong. Even if other people could give us stains, why would they? I have no idea, my friend, but those people are sneaky, and they are good at staining us. Every time I think about it, I just want to punch someone in the nose. And as he finished his sentence, another giant mark appeared on his arm, right in front of both of them. See? You see? They did it again, he cried. He pointed across the street and screamed at nobody in particular. It's all your fault! Blotch stared wide-eyed at his new friend. After the young man had calmed down a bit, Blotch began, Have you ever thought that maybe you might be wrong? Blotch watched the young man's face redden again. Blotch spoke more quickly now. See, I don't think the people across the street are causing your stains. I don't think they could put stains on you even if they wanted to. The young man looked at Blotch with big eyes, but didn't say a word. So Blotch continued, I believe our stains don't come from someone else. They come from us. Blotch watched as several new stains appeared over the man's face and neck. You're one of them, he finally shouted. I can't believe I brought you over here. You're one of them. He was jumping up and down and pointing at Blotch, and people all over his side of the street started running toward Blotch and pointing too. He's one of them, they joined in. He's one of them. Everywhere Blotch looked, people were running at him, snarling, shouting, and pointing their fingers. He didn't know what to do, so he ran in a panic to the other side of the street. Blotch hoped that the people on the other side of the street might be nicer and might protect him from the mob he had just left behind. But as soon as he crossed the street, the people from the other side started pointing and shouting and calling him a stain thrower. They were just like the people he was running away from. Blotch didn't know where to go, so he ran back to the center of the road while people from both sides stood on the edges and pointed at him, blaming him for stains that were their own fault. Without looking back, Blotch ran away from Point City as fast as he could. That ends chapter 4. So there's some things that I want to talk to you about before we leave, and that is some questions that they have for chapter 4. Now, they have an activity for us to do that we can't do, but the activity was that I was supposed to give you candy, and I was supposed to be one piece short. And then I was supposed to blame each one of you for taking that piece of candy and making me short before I confessed that I was the one that left out the piece of candy. And the idea was to see how it felt to be blamed for something that wasn't your fault. So here are some questions that you can talk to your family about. When has someone blamed you for something that wasn't your fault? Has that ever happened to you? I know that when I was a kid, sometimes that happened to me. And then it says, have you ever wanted to blame someone to get out of trouble? And why? And I have to confess that at times when I was growing up, I wanted to do that. And even as an adult, sometimes you're tempted to do that. So, why will the pointers never lose their stains if they keep acting like they do? So every time they blame something on someone else, they get a stain. And I think this is God's way of telling us that we're not to blame others. But there is a few verses in the book of Matthew. It's chapter 7, verses 2 to 5. And it says, "For with the judgment you use, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured unto you. Why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but don't notice the log in your eye? How can you say to your brother, 'Let me take that speck out of your eye,' and look, there's a big log in yours? Hypocrite, first take the log out of your eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eyes." So I think that what this Bible verse tells us is that all of us do things that aren't quite right. And that we always need to look at ourselves first to figure out how we can fix ourselves, how we can be more loving towards our family and our friends and even our strangers. A lot of times we like to say, well, I am better than this person over here. And that is antithetical, which means we shouldn't do it. Because what Jesus wants us to do, he wants us to love everyone like he does. So I encourage you to practice not blaming. I have enjoyed reading this book to you this evening. I'm so glad that you have joined in, and I hope to read you the next chapter next Wednesday night. So here's my idea for what I'd like to do on next. First, we'll have church service at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning, so please join us then. And I would really like us to start a Bible story art project. And this is what I mean by that. There is a particular story in the Bible, and you can look it up. It's the story of Jacob and how he gets all of his wives and all of his children. And there are many characters, and I'd like us to read that through next Tuesday night and look at the story from different points of view of the characters. And then I would like us to individually do pictures, or maybe even make a whole picture book of this story. And you might say, well, I'm not a good drawer, and you don't have to be, because we can do very symbolic pictures, and I'll show you what that's like. So please tune in Sunday morning at 10 for the service, Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock for a Bible story and the beginning of our art project. And then Wednesday night, we will read the final chapter of Blotch. I have enjoyed this. I hope that you have too. May God bless you and keep you. Let us have a prayer before we go. Holy God, our Father and our Mother, we thank you so much for being with us and for helping us through this very difficult time of isolation. Help us to be kind and considerate to the people who we are living with, and help them to be kind and considerate to us. Help us to reach out to other people by telephoning them or texting them or sending them emails or even writing old-fashioned letters and cards. And help us to be the people you want us to be, even though we are closeted away in our houses. God bless you and keep you. Amen. Thank you so much. Again, this is Kathy Light. I'm the pastor from Elm Street Congregational Church in Southbridge, Massachusetts, and I look forward to spending more time with you. Good night.